but I'm actually a pretty healthy man, and I've had things like, these are all legitimate ailments caused Osgood Slaughter's disease.
Art Carney stopped talking to his co-star after The Honeymooners ended, and fans have wondered why for a long time. He was known for being kind and funny, so why did he suddenly go quiet? Behind the laughs and famous TV moments, there is a story of hurt and problems that were never fixed. People have guessed many reasons, but now we finally know the real cause of why Art Carney would not speak to her after the show finished. So, what really caused this sudden silence between two stars? Join us in this video as we discuss the details. The reason Art Carney refused to speak to her after Honeymooners. Art Carney, along with Jackie Gleason and Audrey Meadows, were the main stars of a very popular old TV show called The Honeymooners. This show first came on television in the year 1955. It didn't run for a long time. It only had 39 episodes, but even with just that small number, the show made a big impact. Many people loved it, and it became one of those shows people still talk about many years later. Art Carney played the character of Ed Norton, who was a funny and kind neighbor to Jackie Gleason's character, Ralph Cramden. Carney's role was very important, and his way of acting, his timing, his jokes, and his charm really stood out. People noticed it. He was very good at what he did. Even though he was great on the show and seemed to get along well with the others while acting, the real story behind the scenes seems to be a little bit different, especially when it comes to his relationship with Audrey Meadows. There is quite a bit of information that shows Art Carney and Audrey Meadows didn't really become close friends in real life. They worked together, yes, and they were very professional while filming, but it looks like they didn't have any sort of friendship after the show ended. Art Carney was known for being a very private person. He didn't like to talk about his personal life very much. He didn't go to parties, and he didn't show up at big public events unless he had to. While Jackie Gleason and Audrey Meadows both stayed connected to the show in some way, even appearing at reunions, interviews, or tribute events, Carney stayed away. Over and over again, he turned down invitations to come back and talk about The Honeymooners. Even when important moments happened, like when Audrey Meadows passed away in 1996, Art Carney did not speak publicly or say anything about her death. People who worked with Art Carney behind the scenes have said that he always acted kindly and respectfully on set. He wasn't rude or mean, but at the same time, he didn't really try to become close with others. He kept to himself most of the time. When the cameras weren't rolling, he would often go off by himself. He didn't hang out much with the rest of the cast and crew. This made it hard for anyone, including Audrey Meadows, to really get to know him. Some reports from that time said that Jackie Gleason was very controlling while working on the show. He was the star and liked to be in charge. This made things a little hard for some of the other actors. Audrey Meadows, who had already worked in live TV before, knew how to deal with that. She didn't let it bother her too much, but Art Carney had a harder time. He was dealing with a lot on his own, like stress, anxiety, and problems with drinking. Even though he managed to keep doing his job, it wasn't easy for him. As the lights dimmed on the final set and the curtain quietly closed on their on-screen partnership, one can't help but wonder what really happened between them after the show ended. Let's find out. A life of silence and separation after the show. There is no evidence that Carney and Meadows ever had a fight or any serious disagreement. Nobody has ever come forward with a story of them arguing or being mean to one another. Still, they never acted like good friends either. When Audrey Meadows talked about Carney in later years, she was always respectful. She said he was very talented, but she never gave the impression that they were close. In her book, which she wrote in 1994 and called Love, Alice, she said that Carney was brilliant and gentle. That was a nice thing to say, but she didn't share any personal stories or memories that showed a close friendship between them. In one interview in the 90s, Audrey Meadows said something that many people found interesting. She said, "We worked well together, but we were different people. I do not think Art was ever truly comfortable around anyone, not even himself." This statement seemed to say a lot. It led people to believe that Carney struggled to connect with people in general and was extremely shy or anxious around them. It clarified why he remained silent and distant from everyone else, including those he had long collaborated with. Art Carney pursued other acting roles following the conclusion of The Honeymooners. For a significant film, Harry and Tonto, he even won an Academy Award in 1975. That demonstrated that he was not only a successful TV actor, but also a successful film actor. But even as his career changed and he found new success, he still didn't look back at his time on The Honeymooners. He didn't join reunions or talk about old memories. When fans or other actors brought up the show, Carney stayed silent. This was especially noticeable during times when Gleason or Meadows would share stories from the past. Carney didn't join in. His silence became a pattern that everyone noticed. Even after Audrey Meadows died in 1996, Carney didn't release any public statement. He didn't attend memorials or say anything in interviews. This lack of response led people to believe that he had truly separated himself from that part of his life. Some members of Carney's family later shared that he had gone through a very hard time in 1961. They said he had what they called an emotional breakdown. He was struggling with deep sadness, nervousness, and problems with alcohol. These things made his life very difficult for a while. It's possible that these struggles made him want to stay away from anything connected to the past, including the show and the people from it. When you put everything together, the fact that he was quiet, that he avoided events, that he didn't talk about the show or the people on it, it becomes pretty clear that Art Carney had no real personal relationship with Audrey Meadows after the show ended. They were co-workers, and they respected each other's work. But outside of the studio, there doesn't seem to have been any closeness. In the end, the story is not about any big argument or falling out. There was no fight that broke them apart. It was more about how Art Carney lived his life. He was a very private man who went through personal problems and didn't like to relive the past. That's why he didn't stay in touch with Audrey Meadows. That's why he didn't speak at her death. And that's why, when people remember the Honeymooners, they remember the great work he did on screen. But they also remember that he stayed silent about it for the rest of his life. What happened when Art Carney made his memorable return to the show following his acclaimed performance in Harry and Tonto? Stay tuned for more. A visit marked by humor and health. During a recent televised appearance, Art Carney was introduced as a distinguished comedian and actor, recognized for his notable performance in the film Harry and Tonto. He was being considered for a Golden Globe Award for Best Actor, and the film itself had been nominated for Best Film of the Year. Upon entering the stage to sustained applause and music, Carney engaged in a conversation that was lighthearted and self-deprecating. The host referenced a previous appearance Carney had made on the show, during which he had arrived without trousers, contributing to a comedic moment. Carney, continuing in the same humorous vein, quipped that he might not be wearing trousers on this occasion either. Carney then shifted to discussing a recent health issue he had experienced. He explained that he had suffered a nosebleed and was hospitalized for about a week. After undergoing medical testing, he was given a prescription for medication to treat his high blood pressure. He carried cough drops for relief from the dry mouth that was one of the side effects of the medication. In a light-hearted manner, he explained how he had forgotten his pocket while attempting to store the drops. He further mentioned that his proximity to NBC allowed for easy hospital access, a necessity under regulations requiring medical facilities near large production studios. During his hospital stay, he remained an engaged viewer of the show. His wife had informed him of a last-minute opening on the program, prompting his swift appearance despite his informal attire. He humorously recalled a craving for Moose's meatballs, which he had attempted to order from a local deli, but was unsuccessful. Seeing a dance performance on the show interrupted his thoughts of food, and he redirected his attention to appearing live on the program. Carney was praised for his appearance, though he noted experiencing a hot flash earlier that evening. Discussing his general well-being, Carney stated that he had lost weight and mentioned one of his medications was a diuretic. He described how he took multiple pills in the morning, some of which aided in digestion. He acknowledged the common physician advice that the effects of such medications typically stabilize after several weeks. Carney recounted an oral surgery procedure performed 3 months earlier in New York, which resulted in a condition called paresthesia. This caused prolonged numbness, contrary to the pamphlet he was given that had indicated the numbness would subside within 3 to 4 days. He noted that, in rare cases, the condition could last years, referencing a dentist acquaintance who had encountered such a situation. Carney described himself as generally healthy, despite a history of various legitimate medical conditions. These included Osgood-Schlatter disease, affecting his knee, which he attributed to an old football injury. He also suffered from angioneurotic edema, a condition that caused swelling in various parts of the body, including his lips, eyelids, ears, and most seriously, his throat. He recalled a particularly alarming incident in San Francisco while performing in a stage play. On opening night, his throat began to swell, and by the next morning, his voice had become barely audible due to the swelling affecting his vocal cords. He described the experience as extremely frightening, lacking pain, but completely impairing his speech. Medical intervention involved administering adrenaline in one arm and cortisone in the other, which restored his voice by the next day, though he had to cancel that night's performance. How did Art Carney's lighthearted appearance take a more serious turn as he opened up about his health struggles on the show? Let's delve deeper. Carney's health challenges and hospital stay. Carney went on to talk about other health problems he had gone through over the years. One of these was a hiatus hernia. This condition is also called a diaphragmatic hernia, or sometimes an upside-down stomach. Carney explained that this problem sometimes caused him to bring up food or liquid hours after he had eaten. He said this was because the food or liquid would go the wrong way inside his body. He pointed out that doctors usually try not to fix this problem with surgery because it can be risky, and they prefer other ways to help. Besides the hernia, Carney also mentioned some skin and eye problems he had faced. He said he had neurodermatitis, which is a skin irritation, along with contact dermatitis and dermographism, which also affect the skin. He added that he had conjunctivitis, which is an illness that affects the eyes and can cause them to be red or itchy. When asked why he rubbed his eyes so much, Carney explained that it was not because of the illness, but just a nervous habit he had developed over time. Carney joked about the long list of health troubles he had faced. He said that if someone wanted to make a soap opera, they could use his medical history as the story because it was so full of different problems. The host and audience laughed at this. After talking about his health, Carney showed another side of his talent. He sat down at the piano and played a song called September Song. He told the audience that he played this piece every year, making it a kind of special tradition for him. The crowd clapped and laughed, enjoying his music and cheerful spirit. When Carney appeared on the show, he was in good spirits and was greeted warmly by both the host and the audience. He was introduced with applause and music, and the host talked about how well Carney had done in a movie called Harry and Tonto. The host praised Carney's funny and serious acting skills and even said he deserved a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actor. The movie itself had been nominated for Best Picture, so it was a big deal. Carney then joined the host in some playful talk. He remembered a time when he had been on the show before and came out on stage without any trousers during a fun game where they were throwing eggs with other guests, Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise. Carney joked that maybe he would not wear trousers this time either, making everyone laugh. But then the talk got more serious. Carney shared that not long ago, he had a scary health problem. About a month before this show, he had planned to be on the program, but had to cancel because he had a nosebleed. The nosebleed was very bad and lasted so long that Carney had to stay in the hospital for a whole week. He said it was a frightening time for him. The nosebleed went on for about 18 to 24 hours. While he was in the hospital, the doctors found out that Carney had high blood pressure. They gave him medicine to help control it, but the medicine had some side effects. One side effect was dry mouth, which made Carney carry cough drops with him to help. He told the audience that the doctors wanted him to stay near a hospital in case he needed help again. Carney made a funny comment about how close the hospital, St. Joseph Medical Center, is to NBC Studios. He joked that the hospital had to be close because the studio's cafeteria was built nearby, so people wouldn't get too hungry. While he was watching the show from his hospital room, Carney got a last-minute phone call from Shirley, the producer, asking him to come fill in for someone who had to cancel. Even though it was short notice and he wasn't dressed the usual way, Carney made it to the studio in time. He also mentioned that he had been craving Moose's meatballs from a deli nearby, which made the audience laugh. But after watching a lively performance by Anne Margaret on the show, Carney said he forgot all about the meatballs. When the host asked about how Carney was feeling overall, Carney said that he had lost some weight, but felt pretty good. He explained that some of the weight loss came from a diuretic pill in his morning medicine. He jokingly called the pill a moving pill because it made him go to the bathroom a lot. The host made a light-hearted joke about the strange color of his pills. Carney's health story didn't end there. He opened up about even more serious and surprising health issues. What other unexpected medical challenges had he faced over the years? Let's find out more. The medical history and performance tradition of Art Carney. Carney also told the audience about an oral surgery he had in New York 3 months earlier. The surgery needed 8 or 9 stitches. After the surgery, Carney developed a condition called paresthesia, which means numbness or loss of feeling. The numbness was in the inside and outside of his mouth. He thought it would only last 3 to 4 days, but a pamphlet he got from the doctor warned it could last for weeks or even years. Carney said his brother, who is a dentist, knew someone who had numbness for 2 years. Carney then talked about other real health problems he had faced. One was Osgood-Schlatter disease, which caused pain in his knee from playing football when he was younger. Another serious condition was angioneurotic edema. This is an allergic reaction that causes swelling in different parts of the body. Carney recalled a scary time in San Francisco when his throat swelled up during the opening night of a play. Even though it didn't hurt, his voice became very quiet, almost a whisper. He had to go to the doctor right away and was treated with adrenaline and cortisone. These medicines helped him get better by the next day. The swelling had affected his vocal cords and made it hard to speak. Carney said this was a very alarming experience because there was no pain, only the swelling and voice trouble. The host was surprised by the many health problems Carney had and asked him about each one. Carney confirmed all of them and repeated some, like his hiatus hernia and skin conditions. When asked about his eye rubbing, Carney explained again that it was just a nervous habit. The host joked that Carney's medical story could fill a soap opera, making everyone laugh again. After this, the show went to a commercial break. When it came back, Carney played the piano again. The audience enjoyed the music, laughing and clapping as he said it was a tradition he did every year. The question now is, what really happened behind the scenes? How did something that seemed simple at first turn into a more serious story? Keep watching to learn more details. A simple sketch turned into a beloved TV classic. Back in the 50s, there was a show that a lot of people really loved. It was called The Honeymooners. Now, this show didn't last for a very long time, at least not in terms of how many episodes it had, but it made a really big impact on television and on the people who watched it. It started out kind of small, and then it became really, really popular. But just as quickly as it became a big hit, it also came to an end. A lot of people were surprised by that. It all began when Jackie Gleason, who was a very well-known comedian and performer back then, came up with an idea. He wanted to do a comedy sketch, a short, funny scene, for a TV show called Cavalcade of Stars. That was back in 1951. He worked on the idea with two writers, Harry Crane and Joe Bigelow. Together, they came up with characters and stories that were based on real, everyday life. They were thinking about how regular couples live, especially those who didn't have a lot of money. That's where the idea for the Honeymooners really started. The characters in the sketch were Ralph and Alice Cramden. They were a married couple who didn't have a lot of money, and they often argued or bickered with each other, but deep down, they clearly cared about one another. Jackie Gleason played Ralph, the husband. He was a bus driver. He was loud, quick to get angry, and always dreaming about getting rich in some fast and crazy way. Alice, his wife, was smart, calm, and not afraid to speak her mind. She didn't let Ralph's shouting scare her or push her around. At first, Alice was played by an actress named Pert Kelton. But then things changed. The show was picked up by CBS, a major television network, and they made a decision to replace her with another actress, Audrey Meadows. The reason wasn't about her acting. It was because of something much bigger that was happening at the time. Pert Kelton had been blacklisted during something known as the Red Scare, when many people in Hollywood were accused of having ties to communism. So the producers had to find someone new to play Alice, and that's how Audrey Meadows got the role. One of the things that really stood out about Ralph was something he used to say a lot. He would often shout, "Bang! Zoom! To the moon, Alice!" It became one of the most famous lines from the show. He didn't actually mean it, and Alice never acted scared. It was more like a running joke. But over time, people began to wonder if jokes like that were okay, especially since they sounded like threats, even if they weren't real. Some people laughed, while others didn't think it was funny at all. The short comedy sketch became so popular that Jackie Gleason decided to turn it into a full TV show. The Honeymooners officially premiered on October 1st, 1955. The show kept the same main couple, Ralph and Alice, but added more characters like their neighbors Ed and Trixie Norton. Ed Norton, played by Art Carney, was Ralph's best friend. He worked in the sewers and had a very silly and fun personality. He was always going along with Ralph's wild ideas. Trixie, Ed's wife, was played by Joyce Randolph. She was a little quieter, but she helped keep things grounded. Most of the show took place in just one location, Ralph and Alice's small, simple apartment. It wasn't fancy. It was just 2 rooms, and everything about it felt real. The show focused on the daily struggles and little moments that regular people go through. Sometimes Ralph would buy something new, like a TV or a telephone, and it would only be there for one episode. Then it would be gone again. The stories didn't connect from one episode to the next, so you could watch them in any order. What happened when the laughter ended and the show said goodbye? How did it leave a lasting legacy? To learn more, keep watching. The sudden goodbye and lasting legacy. The show was a big success right away. During its first season, it was one of the most watched shows in the whole country. People felt like they were seeing their own lives on the screen. Regular people dealing with money problems, big dreams, and small joys. Ralph's crazy schemes and loud outbursts were always part of the fun. And even though he yelled a lot, the episodes usually ended with him realizing he was wrong and telling Alice that she was the greatest. That line, "Baby, you're the greatest," was another one people remembered for a long time. But not everyone loved everything about the show. Some people started saying that Ralph's behavior, especially the way he shouted at Alice or joked about hitting her, wasn't okay. Even though he never actually did anything violent, the words bothered some viewers. They thought the show might be making fun of something serious, like domestic violence. Other people said it wasn't meant that way at all. They said it just showed how real relationships can be, messy, loud, but still full of love. Behind the scenes, things were pretty intense. Jackie Gleason was known for being very serious about how he wanted things done. He didn't like to rehearse a lot. He thought the show should feel natural and spontaneous. But that meant that when the cameras started rolling, everything had to be perfect. That created a lot of stress for the other actors and the people working on the show. Audrey Meadows, who played Alice, was one of the few people who could keep up with Gleason. She matched his energy and wasn't afraid to challenge him if she needed to. Even though the show was doing well, it didn't last long. There was only one full season made, just 39 episodes in total. Today, those episodes are called the Classic 39. CBS, the network, was thinking about canceling it because the cost of making each episode was getting too high. But Jackie Gleason made the decision himself. He didn't wait for CBS to pull the plug. He ended the show because he felt the writing wasn't as strong as it had been. He wanted the show to go out on a high note, not stick around until it got bad. The fact that it ended so quickly actually helped make it more special. People remembered it not because it went on forever, but because it stopped while it was still really good. Even after it ended, the episodes were shown over and over again in reruns, and new people kept discovering it. Jackie Gleason even brought the characters back from time to time for special episodes or longer versions of the show. In 1967, for example, there was a set of episodes where the characters traveled to Europe. That was something different, because usually the show didn't change locations or tell stories that lasted more than one episode. Even though the Honeymooners didn't last long, it changed TV forever. It was one of the first shows to focus on a regular working-class family. It didn't have fancy settings or perfect people. It had flaws, it had arguments, but it also had love and humor. Other shows that came later, like All in the Family, Roseanne, and The King of Queens, followed that same kind of style. They all showed how funny and how real everyday life could be. Some of the jokes from the Honeymooners still make people laugh today, but others don't sit as well, especially when people think about the way women were treated or spoken to on the show. That's something people still talk about. Was it just humor for the time, or should it have done better? It's a tough question. Still, one thing is very clear. Jackie Gleason had a big vision. He wanted to do things his way. He didn't follow what other people were doing. And because of that, The Honeymooners became something special. It felt different. It felt real. And even now, after all these years, it still has a place in television history. It didn't end because it was bad. It ended when it was still good. Maybe even great. That's part of why people still remember it. Whether they watched it back then or found it later in reruns, The Honeymooners left behind a story that still matters. It's a story about loud voices, quiet strength, silly dreams, and the kind of love that sticks around no matter what. Do you think there might be another reason why Art Carney refused to speak to Audrey Meadows after the show? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for watching this video. We hope you found it interesting. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the next video shown on your screen to catch up on your favorite celebrity stories. See you there.